So rather than just talking about how to color with watercolor, I'm just going to help you guys with some techniques and tips that will probably help you with your watercoloring. So first we're going to talk about supplies. So here are the brushes that I use for this. You don't have to use these brushes, but this just happens to be a nice brand of brushes that I happen to love. These are the Winsor & Newton Cotman brushes. This is in the size 4, 2, and 000, and these are all round brushes, as you can see here. And I recommend that you guys at least spend a little bit more money on at least one higher quality brush. Doesn't even have to be like the really high quality ones, just a higher quality brush. So this one can range from $4 to $8 at Michael's, but if you have at least one higher quality brush, things will be so much easier for you, I guarantee. So if you don't want to work with these, you can also work with water brushes, as you can see here. I've received a lot of questions about these too. Basically, these are just portable brushes. So basically, you unscrew it, so you have these 3 parts, and this is the water reservoir, which you just put water in, and you just screw this part back on, and almost dropped it there. I don't have water in here right now, but you just squeeze it and the water will come through this little spongy part right here, and it'll go to the bristles, and you can just paint as you want, and it's great for on-the-go painting. And this Sakura Koi watercolor set, this is the set of 24. This set comes with a water brush, and this is the set that I use the most. I also use my Artist Loft 36 set of pan watercolors. Here, I love this set, but for this tutorial, I'm just going to use my Sakura Koi ones. So now I'm going to get into paper, and for paper, I'm just going to mark it here. You will want to at least use 140-pound watercolor paper. If not, you're going to get warping like here, like so, where it's not flat anymore and it's warped and it's just not pretty. And this paper here is actually the Consul extra large mixed media paper, and that paper only comes in the 90-pound size. So I like this paper for practicing and personal little projects and doodles, but otherwise I would not recommend this paper for full-blown watercoloring. For full-blown watercoloring, I recommend the Consul extra large watercolor paper and the Consul Montbal watercolor paper. So they come in the weights 140 pounds. So whenever you're looking for watercolor paper, always look for 140 pound or above, or it's going to inevitably wrinkle and do that. So these are the papers. Now on to the actual techniques. So I'm gonna put my little Nastis palette over here. It's well loved, but kind of gross. So anyways, I have received questions about mixing different things. So starting off, a lot of you have asked me how to mix skin tone. So this is how I mix skin tone. So this set actually has a shade called Jaune Brilliant, or Jaune Brilliant, if you want to say it in French. That actually means brilliant yellow, but it's actually not yellow. It's just a pre-mixed color that's really great for skin tones, but I personally don't really use it that much. You could use this color and then dilute it with water, but the way that a lot of people mix skin is they make an orange. So I could just take this orange and dilute it, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm gonna make it from scratch. So here we have some vermilion red. I'm just getting it on the palette. And make sure that you always have a paper towel with you just to wipe off the excess. So now I'm going to go get some yellow. So I can either use this yellow or this yellow. So I'm just going to go with this yellow and mix it in. So basically our main objective here is to make orange. So here we've made orange. Now just take some water and dilute it. And it's optional, but you can have 2 jars or 2 containers of water, one for cleaning and one for mixing. But for this the purpose of this video, I just have 1 cup with me. So I'm just diluting it a lot. And don't add white. White will make the paint more opaque, not necessarily light. So use white with caution. So I'm just diluting it a lot with water until I get what I want. So I'm just going to test it now on this sheet of paper. You know, it's a little bit too orange, but I'm just going to add more water and see if we can tame that down. So you add more water when you want things to be lighter. So let's see here. You know, that's pretty nice. That's nice and light. So I like that, so that's how I mix my skin tones. So now on to other things. A lot of you have said that your watercoloring skills aren't too great in terms of spreading colors. So I will show you what happens when you don't use enough water and when you use too much water. So here, I'm just going to stick my palette right there. So we're just going to use this olive green, for example. So let's see if I use too much water. My paint is going to be much more watery. See, I'm going to use a ton of water here. And it's going to be much more watery and not as, I don't know, opaque and saturated. And now, since most of the water is already on the paper, we don't really have a lot of water on the brush. So I'm going to go back and dip into here again. And do you see how much more pigment that we picked up? So if you think about it in terms of science, so water moves from places of low concentration, or places from high concentration to places of low concentration. So if your brush does not have a lot of water in the brush, it will move from the paint here, where I already have water, it will move from here to the brush. So I don't know if that makes sense to you. Like, if you imagine it kind of like a sponge, sponges absorb water very easily because, let's say the sponge doesn't have a lot of water. Once you dip it into water, it will absorb that water. So I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it makes sense to me. So now it doesn't have any more water, and I can't really paint, but there's still pigment on here. So I'm going to dip it into some water. I dipped it in water, and now some more. I can get a wash. So basically, watercolor paint cannot work without water. So you must always have water on your brush at all times, unless you want some kind of scratchy color, which you can achieve like right here. Oh, nope, I still have a little bit too much water, but you get what I mean. If you don't have enough water, it's not going to spread as smoothly, and it's going to look like this. Let me zoom in. It's going to look like that. That's not what you want. So if you want a nice gradation or just a nice spread of color, use more water. So that's that trick. And then for making washes, use more water. That's pretty much all it is. Watercolor is not hard at all. It's just, you need to understand, not the physics of it, just like the water itself. Watercolor, you have to manipulate the water to how you want it. So let's say we're gonna color skin. I'm gonna go in here. I just took some skin color, and I'm just gonna paint it, and I'm going to spread it around as I want it to. And you can use wet on wet or wet on dry. So wet on wet is while the paint is still dry, you take some color and you dip it on like this, and it's going to transition more smoothly, more like a gradient. Wet on dry, wet on dry is, let's say, let me clean my brush. I'm taking more of that color. When you go on top, you will get that harsh line right there. It's like with markers. If you put down a layer of color, and then after you wait for that layer to dry and you put on another coat, it's not going to transition smoothly. However, if you work with markers and the layer below is still wet and you put another color on top, it's going to blend. So that the same thing works for watercolor. So see here, it kind of gradated out like that. So this is not really a how-to or a tutorial, it's more like a tips and techniques video, just for a simple understanding of watercolor. And I think I'm gonna do another video after this where I will actually paint a picture and talk while I do it. It's gonna be long though, so just warning you. Anyways, that's pretty much it for basic watercolor, because a lot of the problems that you guys are encountering are just problems with not having enough water or having too much. So you don't want to use too much, but you don't want to use too little. So if you are looking for more pigmented color, then you're going to use less water. Right now I'm using too much, so you don't really get to see the color that much. To get rid of water, you just have to press on your paper towel once. So now this is not enough water, and you get a nice saturated stroke of color. So that's just the basics of watercolor. See, this page looks really messy right now, but that's pretty much all it is. I'll make sure that I go into more clear detail when I actually paint a picture while going through what I'm doing. So hope you guys understood what I was talking about. Hope this helped at least a little bit, and have a nice day. Bye!